just like seeing her for the first time.
And Tian frowned slightly, holding back his anger. Guildmaster Shinua came closer and asked, "Hui's, isn't it the leader of the stupid?" Guild Overkill Tian remained silent, thinking about how annoying he was, and he mockingly said that he was mistaken. "It's not the guild itself that's the problem. It's the leader, right?" He pushed him away and said that he was too busy to respond to his absurd provocation. Sue said that he must be busy choosing low-ranking dungeons. Is he comforting himself by making newbies admire him hadn't like this, and asked what he was saying. Yak turned his gaze to her and asked he didn't go to the dungeon with a mistake to save someone, right? She was surprised, and Tian put his hand on her shoulder, telling her not to answer that. And she wanted to object, but she didn't. He turned to the guard and said that they were coming in, after which he opened the doors and told the association president that the guild leaders Overkill and Shinhwa were already here. Han Kilman replied that he already knew he could hear them arguing. From here, he smiled and added that they don't change. After that, they both went inside, and who stayed outside the guard looked at the girl sitting next to him a little hesitantly and offered her tea, but she told him that everything was fine, rejecting his offer. Meanwhile, two guild leaders, Tian and Yak, were seated in front of Cayman. He looked at them and said that there was an urgent task for their guilds that needed to be completed immediately. Days ago, an unspecified gate appeared on the outskirts of the city, after which scouts were sent there, but none of them returned. Tian frowned and asked if this gate was an error. Gate Cayman replied that, as he had said before, gate was undefined, and even measuring its mana was extremely difficult. Yak exclaimed in confusion. Ash tried to understand the situation, and Tian thought that it was strange that the gate could not even be assessed, since there were usually tools to do so. The rank of a gate was usually determined by two things. First, the amount of mana in the gate itself was measured using a special tool which allowed the rank of the gate to be determined. Usually the rank of a gate was equal to the rank of the monsters that were inside. Second, the intelligentsia sent out by the association to check the situation was compared. Kyleman said that as they themselves new dungeons with an error in rank appeared when the amount of mana inside increased sharply. However, this time it was impossible to measure. Tian asked if they had tried sending out scouts, and he confirmed that they had done so several times, but none of the scouts had ever returned. Yu Yu lazily put his hands behind his head and asked with displeasure, "They have no information about the dungeon's rank or what it contained?" he asked suspiciously. "Are the association trying to shift the blame for what happened?" The association Preston countered by explaining that they don't know how long the curtain of the unknown rank gate will last. If they didn't do something soon, it's quite possible that monsters will start coming out of that gate. He reminded them that this had happened in the past, and every time it turned into hell. He then added, with a serious expression, that he understood how impudent his words might seem, but this is truly an emergency, and this time no refusal will be accepted. He wants the Overkill and Shima guilds to unite and go to clear the unspecified gate. He would like to send the high and mild as well, but they can't join due to a sudden overseas mission. This case is serious enough to call together 3 major guilds. He sets a preparation deadline of days, saying that he will provide funding and the best reward for completing this mission. Of course, if they need anything, they will help in any way they can. Tian, thinking about what Hess had asked if the clearing team should only consist of guild members, he replied that it doesn't matter, since the of this gate is causing chaos and panic in society. He can only allow a small number of reliable people to participate in the mission. Seeing Tian's reaction, Yak looked at him with a slightly surprised look, and Tian said with a slight smile and a confident look that he understood everything. After that, Yak returned to his guild and, throwing his jacket to his subordinate, gave the order to assemble a team of guild members of rank A and above and select this, who were free in the next 2 days. Remembering Tian's smirk, he thought that this sly one definitely had an ace OP sleeve. What kind of smile was that? He was so annoying, he would definitely take the opportunity to crush him. Irritably said to include Kieran in the team, which surprised his subordinates, and he ordered that she'd be invited with it. Failed the subordinates hearing Such an order became nervous, surprised that the leader required the presence of a girl who usually did not help anyone. The girl excitedly said that given her character she would defend a Tilfus, to which Yak sharply told them to do everything possible to make her appear, and warned that if she did not show up, then they could prepare to change their activities. The startled guild members quickly confirmed that they understood, and then dispersed to carry out the order. Yak, burning with rage, headed to the elevator and thought that Kanner and usually doesn't help anyone, but he plans to take advantage of this situation and hire her. Days later, first part of the team consisting of Overcoat guild members gathered at the gate. A girl named Sun Ji asked what time it was. They were still not there. Minden said that there were minutes left until the meeting time. They were right on time. She, clearly expressing displeasure, twirled the gun in her hand and said that she can't stand these pompous idiots. They have no manners at all. Her gaze became stern, and she asked if they would learn anything of. She shot them in the head. The deputy leader was indignant at her words and hit her on the head, telling her to watch her words. She grabbed her head in pain and said that he was brutally strong. He approached her menacingly and asked what she said. After that she started to run and he ran after her, and Junel, watching this scene, told Tian that his guild members are on great terms. He replied that although it seemed that way, they were very reliable in battle. He was grateful to him that he agreed to be honest. He thought he would refuse. Mac replied with a slight smile that he said that he used the item he gave him. He also has pride, returning his attention to the guild members who had already started fighting. He thought that of course this was not the only reason. He had a hidden quest that took place in a dungeon with a story there. He needed to put an end to the abandoned world and get rewards. The opening time of the dungeon is hours also. The quest window had coordinates and unknown rewards written in it. Days ago, this system window with a hidden quest that only a small number of players received suddenly appeared in front of him. The player selection hadn't started yet. Buth had already received a hidden quest, so he saw no reason to refuse, although these quests have very high difficulty levels. If he completed them, he could get incredible rewards, some even awaken new abilities. Who would have thought that this would be the same dungeon? Suddenly Tian distracted him from his thoughts and he looked at him, meeting his serious Days. He apologized to him in advance for the rudeness of this idiot, and then Yak's voice was heard from the side, saying that they were a bit early. The vice guild leader and G immediately stopped the fight, and Tian stepped forward and Yak apologized to them, saying that they had a lot of work. They themselves understand, but it seems that the Overkill Guild has a lot of time. He came to the meeting place with his team and said with a smirk that they were walking through low-ranked gates. No wonder they had a lot of free time, because of this. G got really angry, and Mayan, not letting her move, told her not to answer them, to ignore them. She wanted to object him. Already managed to insult them, but he immediately shut her up and again asked her to ignore them. Junio, at this time, stood at a distance and thought that the Overco Guild and Xinhua are still on bad terms. It's not only the emotional struggle of the guild, but also the media arguing about who is the strongest. Yak, noticing a new face among the Overkill Guild members, looked closely at Junio and let out a chuckle, exclaiming, "Is this their trump card?" He acted like he had something, and is it him? Let them. Just look at his clothes. Is he going on vacation? His laughter tornado anger, and he sighed heavily, saying that they have gone too far. Clearing the dungeon is a joke to them. Do they want to get carried out of there? The MC remained silent, and Yak said that they were idiots, and a girl from his team. Heron smiled and asked him to stop being angry. They also have a new team member, a girl named Karan, appeared behind them and reminded them with an unhappy expression that they themselves said that they were short on time. Shadowson think they have time to argue, so they need to hurry. She stepped forward, and G, seeing her, recoiled in horror and exclaimed, "What kind of team composition is this? The strongest elemental master in Korea, who can use all 6 elements, Koran, an S-rank sorcerer, Kim Yak, and their guild leader, Young Sin. Do they have such a star-studded lineup?" She kept quiet about Junio, since she doesn't know about his abilities, and then sighed with a smile and said that it would be easy. She would be happy to do all of this. After that, they headed towards the Gatind. Junio thought that it wouldn't be easy in their previous life. Clearing this dungeon failed. Out of the 8 members of the team, only Yunnan survived, and it was mainly due to the infiltration skill. After that the gate suddenly disappeared. This was an unprecedented case of all the high-ranking awakened ones being missing. The association worked hard to find something, but there was no information about the dungeon. There was no guarantee that they would succeed this time, but after they had already been in the dungeon for a will of everything turned out to be contrary to his expectations. Their opponents, the puppets, were so weak that the battle was insanely easy for them. This made Junio nervous and wondered why everything was so easy some time ago. A portal with a bright ring lit up in the beautiful gate. Ji said that this mansion was very cool and mying. One told her to be quiet. The whole team was walking inside the dungeon. Mun heard a strange sound from the portal and turned around. Their hisso that the gate slammed shut. The others turned around at this sound. He tried to open the doors, but nothing happened. Then he suggested breaking them down. Ji screamed that she wanted to break the doors down. After which they began to break the gate down. Ji loudly counted, after which the guys hit the gate with mania. They were surprised to ask what was going on. The door did not even move. Dissatisfied, Yak said Thatevarian should move away. He himself will do it now. However, he did not have time to try. At that moment, strange sounds were heard behind him. He turned around and saw several creepy dolls. He hit them and asked what kind of creatures are these. From his blow, the dolls flew into pieces of bodies. The rest of the team also began to fight the monsters. Yak had especially strong blows, who said, "How dare these creatures attack if they are weak?" Heron called the guild leader and said that he can use his skill. However, he shook the dust off his holder and replied that he was fine. Why use the skill on such trifles? But after that, the girls shouted for Thelador to turn around. Monsters were reviving behind him. The dolls began to gather back into their bodies with the help of mana. Yak grinned. The skill for revival is approaching. At least such a skill is needed to see its ability. Hemmed a punch, and two giant fists made of mana appeared near him. The dolls continued to attack, but Yak viciously began to attack the monsters and hit with his fists, and the mana attack pinned the dolls between the magic fists. The rest of the team also fought the monsters with pistols. Yungon of Team Yak was killing the dolls by cutting them with his spear. At this time, only Junio and Yurin were standing aside watching. He asked if she was not going to fight, but Yurin simply asked him the same thing. Junio replied that he was just a support producer. Yurin frowned and said that she had no need to fight. She did not want to work hard for such a team. She looked Ashen's powerful stream of flame. He swung his flaming sword and set the dolls on fire, which melted. Yurin said that she was interested in the fact that the strongest awakened of Korea would be there. She was not impressed by the guildmaster's fire. She said that everyone seemed ordinary. They could not even kill one monster. If she knew that this would happen, she refused to go at this time. Jun looked at the dolls on their bright threads. He thought that it was contaminated mana of these monsters. They are not in their usual will form. He noticed that every movement of the dolls was accompanied by the movement of the threads. When he looked up at the ceiling, he saw the source of the threads. All the mana was connected to this PR. He just needed to destroy the item, but he did not want to show his real skills. Button, he thought that he would use the agreement and everything would be fine. He did not have time to do anything. Ash was distracted by Yurin, who killed an insect nearby with a magic crystal. McClue looked at it carefully and said if she had enough mana to use it on insects, why didn't she shoot it upwards? She pointed at the fly and asked, didn't she already say the reason the insect was incinerated in a cluster of lightning? And Euron replied that she kills whoever she wants. Junio thought, while looking at the ashes of the insect, perhaps there was no need to check. He began to give something to her and said perhaps Yurin is afraid of insects. After such a guess, began to create something from mana. She replied that she was not afraid of such things, and besides, he should stop talking to her. It was annoying. Junio apologized and said that he did not want to intrude, but there was also an insect up there. He created a shield with a spider next to him. Aren said that it was annoying and prepared to attack. With fire, Junio immediately removed the shield, and she released a huge and powerful stream of fire into the cluster of threads. A giant fireball destroyed everything, and Yuran herself was confused. Of the dolls stopped at this time. Yak hit the other doll. He thought, why is this mischievous Yuron using her skills there? But suddenly he felt something strange and looked At the doll, he lifted it by the head and asked what was going on. Why are they not resurrected anymore? He irritably squeezed the monster's head and said that he finally warmed up Button. The end-weak monsters can't do anything. The Waga was broken and glowing with bright mana. Junia walked up and began to absorb the mana. He realized that this was the source of the doll's revival. If he hadn't seen the contaminated mana, he would have found the source. He assumed that this was why the cleanup could have ended badly. Tien stood in front of a mountain of dolls, divided into body parts. He said that they were finished, but since they didn't know anything for sure, they need to search the entire first floor. Mingan said that he understood him. Everyone should follow him. He ran forward and knocked down the door with his body, but Yak overtook him. He shouted for everyone, Eto, get out of the way, he will be the first. There were more dolls in the room, which Yak began to punch. MC looked around the room and thought, is the contaminated mana gathering in that closet? He pointed to the closet and asked Jeji if she could shoot there. She didn't understand him at first, but then decided to follow his advice. When she shot, the gun shattered into pieces. Everyone was surprised. Mayan One didn't understand what was happening and why everyone died so suddenly, and Ji tried to distract him, so they went through all the rooms. So they finished the first floor pretty quickly. Tian went up to the second floor first and said that they went around the entire first floor, so they can go up the Y. Dissatisfied said that he already knew this. It's time for him to stop acting like he's the leader. Tian turned away and didn't answer him, but El Mingwan and Ji, she smirked and twirled the gun in her hand, saying that it was a beautiful thing, and Maya looked at her excitedly. He was terribly angry at this time. He thought that Tian decided to ignore him. How annoying it was. He wanted to trample his pride aside. He felt something unpleasant and looked at his palm. He didn't understand what was happening. Did something hurt for a second? Did he overdo it? However, he told his team to go forward. Heron said that she would go with the leader, and there was a staircase with an awkward slope. Junio was watching them. It worried him. According to Tian, there was nothing special there. He separated from the team and went into one of the rooms, deciding to check everything himself. It was dusty and dark. He covered his nose, and soon he saw many threads with an infected aura on the floor. He was surprised to see so much mana, but suddenly loud sound washed at this time. Yak was fighting hard against the monsters. He shouted that he did not have time to use a skill. All the other team members fought back against the monster. Just as bravely and furiously they shot and tried to cut the monster into pieces, but nothing helped. Tian held back and reflected the monster's blows with his sword. He asked if everything was okay. He realized that they were being fought by an invisible ranking monster. Mangan shouted that he was fine. Ji was nearby and said Thatch was fine too, but she couldn't see the guy who was with him. He asked her excitedly and began to look around Therum. It was as if he saw different wind currents from the movement of each person. He began to worry because hadn't noticed that Junio was missing. He began to shout and call him. At this time the protagonist was near the source, off contaminated mana, and heard a scream. He realized that the battle was getting tougher, but he had already absorbed the mana, so he needed to catch up quickly. Suddenly a secret passage opened in front of him. He looked down into a dark basement. MC thought he wondered what was down there. Enemies, but he decided not to think for long and began to go down. A figure of a person began to appear in front of him. He said in surprise, "Is it a girl?"